Huh? What? Is that it? Is it over? Is the episode over? It is? Great! Great. But... oh. Now I have to do the review, don't I? Okay, so that was boring as hell. And before I sat down to write this video, somebody added me on Twitter reminding me that Ms. Marvel is a show for teenage girls. Presumably because that might absolve it from being a bad show somehow? Well, no, it doesn't work that way. See, something can be made for a certain audience and still have broad appeal. A show can be written for a specific demographic and still be a good show. So even if it's not for you necessarily, you can at least appreciate it for being a quality product. Shows like ATLA, Legend of Korra, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited. Technically, shows made for kids, sure, but adults can appreciate them just as much, if not more, because they're just great shows. There's no reason why Ms. Marvel can't be the same way, and the only thing that's stopping it is the people who make it. So the first episode of Ms. Marvel wasn't really terrible, wasn't especially good either, but there was potential for it to turn into something decent if it could work the kinks out. Did they at least try to do that this week? Maybe? Kind of? The ADHD graphics were a lot less egregious this time. Thank you. Kamala comes out of her shell somewhat this week, and I do genuinely like the actress. She's got charm and personality when she's allowed to show it. I think she's quite good. The whole cast seems good, actually. They gel pretty effectively. I don't see any weak links in there. Some of them are kind of annoying, but I don't think that's the actor's fault. No, as of right now, the biggest problem with the show is the writing. Second biggest is the pacing. Third is the politics, which I was really hoping we could avoid. First episode didn't get super political, and that was refreshing. Now it's getting political. It's getting really political really quickly, and they're not being subtle about it. So for about 36-ish minutes, the episode wasn't bad exactly, but absolutely nothing was happening. Then some stuff starts to happen, but it's annoying, and then in the last 5 minutes or so, more stuff happens, and it starts to get more interesting, but it's also pretty stupid. It's bizarre. The writers seem to be rolling with this idea that the audience cares about Kamala's daily life as much or more than anything related to the superpower stuff, and that is such a weird take. They're focusing on that for a lot of the episode's runtime, and again, it's not the worst thing ever or anything, but I couldn't wait for it to be over. I mean, if I randomly develop superpowers from out of nowhere, my every waking moment is gonna be pretty preoccupied with that for a while. So why they're spending so much time on the most boring stuff the show has to offer, I couldn't tell you. But when the pacing is so damn slow, it does give you a lot of time to fill. I just think they picked the wrong stuff to do that with. So the episode begins with Kamala waltzing into school for the first time since the chaos at AvengerCon. She's got a whole new swagger now, brimming with confidence. All those people she used to feel awkward around, she's not letting get to her anymore. She even bumps into the new kid in school. And OMG, it's a cute boy. Everything's coming up Kamala all of a sudden, until that darn Zoe has to go and kill her buzz. Turns out Zoe is a bit of a social media influencer, and following her run-in with Kamala at AvengerCon, her follower count just shot through the roof because she was apparently live streaming that whole encounter somehow, even though we saw her when it happened and she clearly wasn't. So Zoe's kind of a celebrity now because she was saved by Nightlight. That's what they're calling her. Nightlight. It's kind of like Night Monkey, except it's not funny, or cute, or ironic, or really anything. So Zoe's the center of attention and just milking this for all it's worth. She's telling the story to anyone who will listen, and she's fudging a few details, but it's all harmless enough. And she's throwing a party to celebrate the fragility of life on account of her almost dying, which Kamala has zero interest in, but then Zoe invites the super dreamy new kid, Kamran, and then Kamala decides that she's totally down to celebrate the fragility of life. I was worrying about the fragility of my patience with this episode for a while, but we're not there yet. Then something interesting happens. Bruno is dying to see the powers, so Kamala tries to do a thing, but almost knocks some stuff over on them, and they have to dive out of the way in a scene that looked really fake. So she decides that, yeah, maybe I should practice this stuff lest I accidentally kill someone. Cue training montage. I actually like this sequence. They're trying to figure out what Kamala's powers are, what she even is now, what she can do, what she can't do. There's a lot of trial and error. Once again, Kamala's not perfect. She's not amazing at it right out of the gate. We see her screwing up a lot. She has to work at her powers to refine them. And that's good. It gives her something to overcome, makes her feel like a relatable person. So she practices a lot, and she can make hard, light platforms to walk on after a while, but that's about it for now. And somehow they figure out that the power isn't coming from the armband thing that they're calling a bangle, it's coming from Kamala herself. So the bangle just unlocked what was already there. This sequence is fine. The jokes, or attempts at jokes, are very obvious and not funny at all, quite frankly, but otherwise pretty decent stuff. Then it gets boring again for a while. Kamala and her other friend Nakia, who I guess is a white girl who converted to being a Muslim, they go to the mosque to do whatever people typically do at a mosque. I'm an uncultured, godless white dude from the suburbs, so I truthfully don't know. They're running late, so they're in a big rush to take their shoes off and get cleaned up because all that praying isn't gonna pray itself, I guess. But they're not so interested in the praying because the mosque has separate sections for the men and the women, and the men's section is in much better condition, and yeah, you already know where this is going, don't you? The guy running the lecture or whatever talks down to them for pointing this out, and they're annoyed that the women and the men aren't being treated equally, so Kamala encourages Nakia to enter the election and run for the mosque board, which I guess is like a board of directors or something, but I'm not sure. Seems like kind of a long shot if you ask me. And not because Nakia's a girl who'd be running against a male, but because she's a high school student who'd be running against an adult. Guess which scenario they try to make this about. Nakia thinks this idea is crazy, but then someone steals her shoes. The mosque shoe thief has struck again, and God knows the men aren't doing anything about this. So maybe she'll consider it. After all, if a teenage girl can't catch a shoe thief, then who the hell can? Really, just scintillating stuff, you have no idea. Later on, Kamala apologizes to Mama Khan about sneaking out to Avenger Con. Mama Khan accepts this because she just wants Kamala to stay safe, and then because the timing for this couldn't be more perfect, Kamala asks if she can go to Zoe's party. And even though this is pretty much exactly the type of thing that Mama Khan didn't want Kamala doing in the last episode, she's like, sure, why the hell not? If I didn't let you celebrate the fragility of life, what kind of parent would I be? So she goes to the party, and there's all sorts of party-type shenanigans happening there. Kamala takes a sip of orange juice, but oh no, there's vodka in it. At a high school party? Wow, what are the odds? And then the new kid, Kamran, flips off the roof and into the pool. He climbs out of it in slow motion so we can see his awesome body in all its glory, and Kamala's all googly-eyed because, whoa, cute boy, check out the abs. And him and Kamala seem to have a bit of a spark between them, which Bruno is a little annoyed about, but before anything happens, the cops show up, so they have to scram. Luckily, Kamran is so super cool, he even has a car, a really awesome car, and Kamala just loves the color. Black. So the two of them start hitting it off. Turns out they like the same music, they're both into Bollywood movies. There seems to be some chemistry between these two crazy kids. But then Bruno tries to butt in because he's super jealous and he just ends up cock-blocking them. Thanks, Bruno. But not even Bruno can stop this love train. Kamran gives Kamala his number when he drops everyone off, and the shot literally dissolves into little hearts. I am not kidding. It's incredibly cheesy, but I almost have to tip my hat to the production team for having the balls to lean into it like this. And they lean into it so much, they actually do a musical number. Kamala comes home, and she's dancing around, lip-syncing some corny old love song like she's in a cliched teen romance from the 1980s. It's dumb and feels really out of place, but bless her heart, the actress just commits to it so much that I can't quite bring myself to shit on it, even though I'd really like to. So her and Kamran start texting, and he's gonna give her a driving lesson later. Oh boy. She's super excited, and this dissolves into graphics of the two of them, which then dissolve into a doodle she drew of the two of them during class the next day. Kind of a neat transition there. Then, as the class ends, her nose starts glowing. Why? I couldn't tell you. I also couldn't tell you how nobody in the classroom notices this, even though a good 30 seconds goes by before Kamala tries to hide it. So she takes cover in a bathroom stall while she waits for that to go away, and Nakia comes to check on her, thinking she's having a feminine hygiene situation. Lovely. She says Kamala's been acting weird lately. Kamala says stuff is changing really fast and she can't keep up, so how does Nakia make it look so easy? Nakia says it's not easy. She's either too white or too ethnic for some people, but eventually she stopped trying to please everyone because when she puts on the hijab, she feels like herself, like she has a purpose, and that's why she's running for the mosque board, and Kamala's the one who convinced her to do that. So they validate each other and they love each other so much, and Nakia even got Kamala some accessories for her driving lesson with Kamran, and Jesus Christ, this is taking forever. I mean, I guess there's nothing objectionable about it, but why are we spending so much time on this? What is it about this stuff that the writers think is so interesting? Did the showrunner see the feedback to the boat subplot in Falcon Winter Soldier and think, I gotta get me some of that? I'm not saying the social commentary isn't gonna matter to anybody, but we're 20 minutes in and we're still waiting for the fucking plot to start. And we'll have to keep waiting for a while. Bruno goes to see the guidance counselor. Apparently he got accepted into some program at Caltech, so he'd be spending a semester over there. It wouldn't cost anything, it's all paid for, sounds like a really great opportunity, but he says he'll have to think about it because, you know, the girl he likes has superpowers now, and I don't think Caltech has anything like that. But much more importantly, Bruno has to stick around to make sure that nothing happens between Kamala and that loser Kamran with his stupid car and his stupid abs and his stupid car. That's such a stupid fucking color. Black. So Kamala tries to meet Kamran in the parking lot for her driving lesson, but then there's Mr. Cockblot Bruno thinking the two of them were gonna train with her cool new superpowers after school because Bruno's just fucking lame like that, but Kamala's a lot more interested in getting Kamran's motor running if you get my drift. She does ask if Bruno's coming to Eid though. I don't know what Eid is. I feel like I might accidentally say something offensive if I speculate about that, so I won't. Then Kamala goes on her driving lesson, Bruno walks away with his head hung low, and you might as well go to Caltech, buddy. If the comics are any indication, this only gets worse for you. So the driving lesson turns into sitting at a cafe without ordering anything, and Kamala and Kamran talking about how they're both obsessed with Kingo. I guess this episode was written before the producers saw the reaction to Eternals. Them's the breaks, I suppose. So they're having a good time, things are going really well, there's even some swoon-worthy hand-holding, but then Kamala freaks out when she sees her brother, and if her brother saw her innocently sitting at a table having a conversation with someone, he would freak out, and then God only knows who would freak out after that. But despite her best efforts to hide, the brother does see her, so Kamala has to think fast, and she tells him that Kamran is their cousin, a cousin he's never even heard of before, and he believes this. For some reason. Alright, so that night the brother has his fiancée over for dinner, and they're talking about the partition of India, which I really don't feel qualified to discuss, but the dad tells this story about how Mama Khan's family was boarding this train to take them away from whatever they were trying to get away from, and the grandma, who was a toddler at the time, got separated from her parents, but somehow found her way back to her father by following a trail of stars, though the mother, Kamala's great-grandmother, mysteriously disappeared. Something about this story makes Mama Khan very uncomfortable, and also it causes the bangle to go haywire and gives Kamala this weird vision of some strange woman reaching out for her And then Kamala faints. Okay, we're back to something vaguely interesting. Let's go more in this direction, please. And they do for a minute. Kamala tries to Zoom chat with her grandma to ask her about the bangle, and the bangle belonged to the grandma's mother, the one who disappeared, but she really doesn't want to talk about that because it would make Kamala's mom upset. We still don't know why. And we don't get any more information because the dad tries to come into her room at that point and Kamala has to awkwardly attempt to keep the door closed. Just tell him you're masturbating, Kamala. That'll keep him out. The next day, everybody's getting ready for Eid, and the parents are talking about how Bon Jovi would make for an awesome song for the first dance at the brother's wedding. I agree, that would be awesome. But then Kamala tries to get more information about the great-grandma because she's tied into the superpower stuff somehow, and Mama Khan instantly shuts that down. That woman brought shame to their family, and that's the last she wants to hear about this. Cut to Eid. I guess Eid is like a festival, carnival, celebration of some kind. Nakia's there handing out flyers for the mosque board election. I didn't know that was a big enough deal to warrant flyers, but okay. And this sets up a weirdly elaborate sequence where Nakia lays out how she, Kamala, and Bruno will all be handing out flyers and making Nakia's case to the whole community, which then happens mostly off-screen, except for when Nakia takes it upon herself to convince Kamala's dad to vote for her. Kamala might have had a better shot at that, but whatever. I still don't know why we're spending so much time on this. Anyway, the guy she's running against is the dad's best friend. So Nakia's like, well, your daughter is my best friend, and we're just trying to exercise our right to participate in democracy and dream a better future that people died for, free of women's suffrage and lots of other horrible things. You don't want to rob us of that future and kill our dreams, do you? Nakia, sweetie, you're overcomplicating this, and also being really annoying. Just tell him to vote for you, or the next time Kamala's masturbating, she'll just let him walk in. That should do the trick. Then it gets more annoying. Oh boy. The G-men from the Stinger last week have brought Zoe in because they have some questions for her about the enhanced individual. Really? Out of all the things you could have taken from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you picked that term? Wow. And get this. Turns out everybody in the office is a big fan of Zoe's. Because Zoe's a social media influencer, remember? But yeah, they all love Zoe. They're big fans of her videos. Especially the one about that enhanced individual who tried to kill Zoe. Or maybe that was a big hoax and Zoe just staged the whole thing. No? Oh, so it really happened? Well, who is this individual then? I mean, Zoe must know who she is, right? Is she Latinx? Middle Eastern? South Asian? Egyptian? Mexican? South American? Did she have a funny accent? Did she sound like a terrorist to you, Zoe? Oh my god. Yeah, they're really going there. I guess this is the squeaky clean Disney Plus version of racial profiling, making all these wild assumptions based on nothing. They don't know what race Kamala is. She was wearing a mask. And even though Zoe doesn't say a word, and literally all they have to go on is that there was some kind of superhuman related incident at AvengerCon, they make the call to do a sweep of every temple, community center, and mosque in the tri-state area because you know the type of people who go to those places, and if someone was wearing a mask and causing a commotion, then they must be non-white and evil. I'll give you one guess which race these G-men are. This is where the whole thing is gonna fall apart, isn't it? Back to Eid. Kamala's asking some friends of the family about her great-grandmother, and nobody seems to have anything good to say about her. She brought shame to the family, she put curses on people, she had a secret affair, she might have killed someone during that partition incident. She was just no good. Now, at this point, there's like 6 minutes left in the episode, so the writers figured it's probably time for something to, happen. So we see some clown who has gone up to the highest point of the mosque and leans halfway out the window so he can take selfies like a jackass. And well, wouldn't you know it, he falls out the window. Who could have seen that coming? So he's dangling off the side of the building, hanging on by the curtains, screaming for help. Everybody's horrified. Call 911, call 911. Nobody actually goes to help the kid though, even though all they'd have to do is run up the stairs and pull him in through the window. No, they're all just standing there there watching. So instead of simply letting Darwinism take its course and remove this dumbass from the gene pool before he reproduces, Kamala decides that as long as she's here and she's got these powers, maybe she should go save his idiot life. But get this, instead of just running up the stairs and pulling him in through the window, she goes to put on her cosplay suit and mask, beats me where she was hiding that stuff, and then she goes up to the opposite end of the building and puts herself in needless danger she could have easily avoided by very, very slowly walking across the ledge and then creating hard light platforms to walk on when the actual ledge is right next to her. Literally, it's right there, 1 foot to her left. She could be walking on that much more safely. It looks so awkward that she stopped to do it this way. And also, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but she could have saved him much more quickly and much more easily by just running up the stairs and pulling him back in through the fucking window. I don't know why Kamala's doing all this. Frankly, it makes her look like a fucking idiot. The only thing that makes sense is that she wanted to show off her powers to all the bystanders down on the ground because of ego or something. What other explanation is there? I can't think of one. So the curtains finally tear off. Kamala creates a hard light platform for the kid to stand on, but he slips off that. She tries to catch him, but they both fall. She saves them with another platform. Then she tries to get the kid back on the roof, but the bangle goes nuts again, gives her another vision of that mysterious woman who I'm assuming is the great-grandmother. She loses control, the platform disappears, the kid falls again, she barely stops him from dying, and he might have hurt his ankle, but he's alive. Kamala's rightfully freaked out though, so she takes off, winds up in an alley somewhere, and I do appreciate that this whole thing went terribly. She made a bunch of really stupid decisions there, and it nearly blew up in her face. What bugs me about it, though, is that it didn't almost end in tragedy because of the mistakes she made. It went pear-shaped because the bangle did kooky shit unexpectedly. So the kid got injured, but not because Kamala was doing something dumb or showing off or whatever, because something surprising happened that she had no control over. That's the problem I'm having with this. It's staged in such a way that doesn't make it look like Kamala did anything wrong, even though she did, so now she has no reason or motivation to make smarter decisions next time. See how that works? And she doesn't even have time to collect her thoughts before she gets targeted by some weird drones that start flying in. She runs from these things, smashes one of them, the G-men roll in at the end of the alley, she platforms over them, one of them shoots her with something like a sound concussion maybe? Looks completely safe. I guess they can't use actual guns because show for tweens. She lands on a drone, smashes it, jumps off, crash lands in the street, and then all of a sudden, Kamran rolls up in his super awesome car painted in that super awesome color, black, and tells her to get in. She jumps in the car, they peel rubber out of there, and then Kamala takes her mask off. Great, so if Kamran didn't know your secret identity before, he definitely does now. Idiot. And then, shocker, sitting in the back seat is the mysterious woman from Kamala's visions who Kamran introduces as his mom. So if she actually is the great-grandmother like I thought, it means Kamala spent the whole episode crushing on her grandpa. Ew. But hey, good news, Bruno. You might still have a shot after all. This was a better episode than the premiere in some ways, and a worse episode in other ways. It's better in that Kamala got to show more personality this time. Again, I do like the actress, I think she's pretty talented. But it's worse for all the reasons I mentioned at the start of the video. The pacing is very slow, it doesn't feel like the story is going anywhere until the last couple minutes. Everything before that is harmless enough as long as it's not political, but once it gets political, it gets really annoying really quickly. Big surprise. This involves making a bunch of white characters one-dimensionally racist because one, that's the only idea a lot of today's writers seem to have, and two, if they're not racist, then they have no reason to show up at the mosque, and then the story can't happen. And just because those other things are harmless, that doesn't mean they're compelling. Frankly, I thought most of it was pretty boring. All the stuff with the mosque board election, I mean, who cares? What does that have to do with anything? Even your target audience of tween girls will probably be bored with that stuff. The stuff involving the superpowers and the mystery about the great-grandma was at least more interesting because that's when stuff actually happens. Unfortunately, the writing shits the bed during the big rescue scene and just makes Kamala look really stupid. And that just goes back to the biggest issue right now. The writing is semi-competent up to a point. Most of the characters are at least likable, which is more than Batwoman ever managed, but the show never rises above basic bitch-level storytelling. Everything is very, very simplistic. Girl gets powers, meets a cute boy, the best friend also likes her, spooky family secret, white people are evil because we need a villain. It all reads like something a slightly above average, but still very inexperienced 12-year-old fanfic writer would come up with. They're not trying to break the mold with any of this stuff. And I'm not saying that every project has to do that, but if you're not trying to challenge yourself or the audience creatively, then you better at least make damn sure that what you do deliver is something worthwhile. And you know how you don't do that? By demonizing white characters for no other reason than because they're white. That's some shit that Batwoman would do. And if you writers are gonna try to do anything with this show, please try to be better than Batwoman. I was hoping Ms. Marvel would improve on their first episode, but there were some big warning signs this week. The show can be charming at times due in large part to the lead actress, but for big chunks of this one I felt pretty impatient with it. The more political it gets, the worse it gets, and the writers seem almost afraid to encourage the audience to use their brains. The episode does at least end in a more interesting place, so maybe the story will start moving now, but the show is not heading in a promising direction. You're up, episode 3. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments. Ding that bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. Links to that and to my live streaming channel are down there. Thumbs up the video, share, subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more soon. So you guys take care, do all the YouTube things. F*** you, Jersey. I'll see you next time.